Welcome everybody to the Microsoft 365 Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. It is on the February the 15th, that's one day just after Valentine's Day, but apparently it's Friday tomorrow, so you can get away with it then as well. If you have forgotten, not that I've forgotten, but if I did forget, then I wouldn't be here. So my name is Paul Bullock, I'm your host today. And we've got some wonderful presenters to go through. I'm just going to go to the next slide. So the agenda for today is we're going to go through the latest updates in the community. So we're going to talk about PMP.NET libraries, PMP PowerShell, the Microsoft Teams Toolkit, there's some news in that space, our latest script samples, Teams samples, Power Platform samples. We're going to have a together mode, so powder your noses and so forth for that. And we've got two awesome speakers today. So we've got Paul Kirschner, who's talking about how to build a Mindmap Teams application with the Fluid framework. And then we've got the magical Chris Kent that will show us some cool list formatting tips and tricks. So just to talk about some of the resources that you have within PMP PowerShell. So we've got a very, 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 very large library of video content. So from all the community calls, samples, demos, you name it, there is an absolute huge repository of content there that you can leverage. So if you want to learn something new or catch up with the latest, then absolutely go check that out and subscribe to that channel today to get all the updates. We are also expanding into other social media. So we've got LinkedIn channels. I'll be talking towards the end of this about Discord as well. So we're expanding into those spaces as well. So you can reach us out for the updates and content in those spaces. So wherever you hang out in your favorite social media platform, we've got some sort of presence there, which is super, super cool. We've got quite a number of open source repositories as well. So we've got the PMP main one. There are lots and lots happening in those spaces. So if you're ever looking to contribute to patterns and practices, or you want to get involved or learn from any of the code samples or anything like that, these are the places to go. This is super, super cool. A number of us have even contributed to this over the years and ourselves become MVPs as a result of this. So if you are looking to go down that path, have a look at those repositories, see if you can get involved with an initiative. And then maybe one day you'll become an MVP as well. It's also a good space if you want to learn how other samples are written, so patterns as well. And there is a treasure trove of resources in those repositories. We've also got a massive library of sample galleries as well. So we've got the community samples, solution samples gallery, which has got nearly, I think it's 1,800 plus samples now. It's grown massively over the years, which covers things like team samples, SPFX web parts, SPFX extensions, Power Platform samples, list formatting, and more. But if you're struggling with all the many URLs you've got on this screen, you can just remember just one URL, so aka.ms/community/home. Great. This isn't the only community call that's going on, so there are other calls. So if you find that there are other areas of the platform that you want to invest time in learning, connect with those communities, we have the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call each Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So that's typically where the Microsoft speakers will present something cool and shiny for you to get your hands on, and you'll be able to ask questions directly to the engineering teams in that call, which is super, super cool. We've also got the Power Platform monthly call happening each month, and then we've got the Office add-ins, the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community calls as well, and then you've got the Viva Connections and SharePoint Freighter bi-weekly call, which happens typically the alternative Thursday to this one. But if you can go and grab all the recurring invites from our main sites, which is akms/community/calls, which is a great place. So you can see everything that's going on there. I think the list is bigger than this, so go check that out if you feel like you want to meet up with the community. And also as well, we've taken up Meetup as well. So we have a Meetup channel there, so if you want to keep track of all of the updates, then go join that as well. Subscribe to that because all the calls get published to those locations as well. So Upcoming on the Microsoft 365 Power Platform weekly call, this is on the 20th of February at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We have news and updates from Microsoft Engineering. We also have 3 cool demos. So one from World at Mastercash around extending Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that's learning how to ingest M365 and Power Platform community samples using JavaScript and Node.js. So that's a super thing. Go check that out. If you don't know how to do that or you want to know more, check that recording out. Then you've got Paolo Palorsi, who's working on the creating custom Copilot with Copilot Studio based on your files in SharePoint. And then finally, we've got Mark Cashman with Inside Planning on the Microsoft M365 Community Conference, so you can understand what's going on over there and get the inside scoop on what's happening with that call as well. As there is again an AKMS link at the bottom of this, so /community/MS speakers call invite. So if you want to grab that, that will give you the link to the call that happens on the Tuesdays, which is awesome. Right. So as you may know, we've got a number of presenters on this call. So if you want to present your own demo or pattern, or you've got something to share with the community, by all means, we absolutely welcome everyone to join us on that. So, but we do require you to fill out a form so that we can plan those in and book an appropriate slot for you to join that. So that's AKMS/community/request demo. So a nice short link there. But yeah, if you've got something to share with the community, by all means, everyone's welcome. And if you need additional support, in that talk or anything like that, then please reach out to us as well. We'll absolutely help you as much as we can to support you through that presentation as well. So Hugo, have you got anything to say on this particular subject?
Asking me if I've got anything to say on anything. Come on. All right, everybody. We have guidance for you on how to get started on our open source community. We know it's scary to get started with creating your first pull request or to speaking on a community call, but we have guidance for you where we can actually show you how to actually do your first pull request. It's done in a safe space. It's never recorded. No one will make fun of you because we've all been through this. And at the end of the sessions, you will actually have done your first contribution. And we have a few sessions on how to get started with Power Platform samples, SPFX samples, and even how to do your first-time presentation. So again, you can join us by going to aka.ms/sharing is caring. And we have office hours starting soon. As soon as I come back from vacation, we'll be setting these up. And once you have done your PNP community contribution, you get a fancy badge, which is on the next slide.
Ooh. So just to ask a couple of questions there.
Yeah.
These calls, are they recorded? Are they open to questions and things like that?
The calls are never recorded. And people can ask questions. In fact, that's the whole point. It's a small group of people, and everybody is welcome to ask questions. And we'll even, if someone's having trouble, we'll say, "Hey, share your screen. Let's all try to figure it out together." Again, because
awesome.
Everybody that's on the call, except for maybe the presenters, hopefully the presenters, have never been through this before. And again, yeah, go ahead.
That is super, super cool. Yeah, that is great. So if you need any help or anything like that, this is the place to go to get started on any of the community initiatives that PNP offers as well. Thank you, Hugo.
My pleasure.
So as part of the community, we also have a community recognition program to sort of showcase your contributions with badges. So I'm just going to see if there's transitions. So this is an example of a nice new shiny badge that you can get when you contribute to any of the repos in the community, or if you talk or blog or any of those things, you will get a badge. And there are a number of badges for different initiatives as well, so you can collect them if you want to sort of contribute in different spaces. So you get different designs and so forth. And there are various themes that happen throughout throughout the year as well, like Hacktoberfest. There's a latte-based one that I don't think I've seen myself, but I've seen the design, which is super cool. But it is important that if you want a badge, that you have to sign up for this community recognition program. This is so that we can associate your Credly profile to your email. So when we issue these badges out, it goes to yourself, and you can store that in your account. So that's super important. So that is aka.ms/community/recognition to get signed up to that. So let's go over to project-specific updates. I don't think Bert's on the call, so I have to cover this slide. No, it's definitely not calling out. So PMP framework, so new versions out, 1.14, which is support for .NET 8. Woohoo! That's awesome as well. With nearly 2.319 million downloads. Just mind-boggling, some of these numbers on these slides here, and you get a nice shiny badge as well. If you contribute to that space, we've also got PMP Core SDK that's also had the same .NET 8 treatment as well. So version 1.11 is out, and also thank you to some contributors here. For Andrew Keppel, who added a list item fix, and then we've got file upload fix by Annex Shen, and improved security label settings by Conrad. So thank you for all of those awesome contributions. It's great to have these people that keep improve upon these libraries as well. Another thing that's been added to this SDK is the improved batch response handling, fixed loading of add-ins, and ACL principles in cases where there's more than 500 instances per site collection, which is an interesting scenario, but very cool that this is continued to be enhanced over time. And again, from December stats, you've got over 227,000 tenants are currently using components. Just shows you how mind-bogglingly the scale is on these libraries. So over to Gautam for updates on PMP PowerShell.
Thanks, Paul. PNP PowerShell updates. PNP PowerShell, for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, it's a PowerShell library that you can use to interact with various Microsoft 365 services like SharePoint, Teams, Entra ID, and lots more as well. What's latest in the nightly builds? We added a new commandlet, set PNP archives site archive state, using which you can set the archive state of a site collection. We also improved the set PNP Teams channel command to allow setting of the moderation values. We added a new command, get and set PNP retention label to set retention label on the list items. Besides that, we have a major improvement across all the Power Platform commands. So all of them now support US government and other non-commercial cloud environments as well. What else? We improved set PNP web, set PNP web header, as well as the get PNP site template commands as well. What next? Would absolutely love to hear from you. What is missing, what you are facing as well, and we 2.4.0 is coming out very soon, so stay tuned for that. Yep, that's all from my end. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Gautam. That's an impressive set of updates to that repository. Certainly a tool that I use quite heavily in what I do in my job as well. So a lot of these capabilities do get used very, very quickly, which is super cool. So I look forward to exploring those myself. Now over to John for updates with Teams Toolkit.
Thanks, Paul. Teams Toolkit is our pro code tools for making Teams apps, but also for Outlook and M365 app. And we have extensions for VS Code, VS, and we also have a CLI tool. So there are some new releases that have come out recently. 17.9 in VS just shipped, so there's a bunch of new templates in there. A lot of features that we've had in the VS Code tool for a while. So if you're familiar with that, but you want to develop for .NET, you can check out the VS stuff. In VS Code, there's a new 5.4 release, which came out at maybe beginning of this month, beginning of last month, I forget. But there's also a new preview out in 5.5, so you can check that out if you're into previews. And we have support for Copilot plugins in there as well on both tools, same for the CLI tool. And if you want to chat or share any feedback about that, there's a link there, TTK chat, that'll schedule some time with me. And we've also been shipping a lot of new videos to go over a lot of these features and these things on the M365 Developer YouTube channel, so check that out. And that's all I got. Thanks.
So over to Paul. So Paul, We've got some great updates to script samples. So we now have 247 scenarios and 346 scripts within the script samples repository, just to go over what that is. It's a repository for hosting PowerShell scripts, things like Microsoft Graph, PnP PowerShell, SPO Management Shell, and the CLI for M365, and many, many more. If there's an unsupported type on there, you've got something to share, reach out to me. I'll expand the site to fit your sample, just in terms of filters and the way it presents. So if you've got something to share in that space. So we've got some lovely new samples. So just a perfect present for Valentine's Day. So from these wonderful contributors. We've got new PnP PowerShell samples for removing SharePoint organization asset libraries by Ganesh Snap. We've also got registering these organization asset libraries as well by Ganesh Snap as well, so which is super, super cool. We can download now files from an array of document libraries and archive them from VLRS Nabutus. And we've got an updated scenario. So this is a new script to an existing scenario based on a different tool. So CLI for M365. So getting the unified log for SharePoint DLP Exchange and Entra by Reshmi Aklu, which is super cool. And I wanted to call out an extra thank you to Ganesh Snap because he's been doing a load of maintenance updates to the script samples library. So I've been letting the side down. So I deeply apologize for that. But he stepped in and helped me out in a few places, which is super, super cool. So he's done a lot of work with updating the help and on the sample so that they go to your default to the ENUS versions of the documentation for any of the sort of commandlets and things like that. He's removed that error in the links. But again, a huge thank you to all your contributions. So again, there is a badge for this, and also reach out to myself either on LinkedIn or Twitter, or even in the issues list if you want to respond back. So back to the host, Paul. So thank you, Paul. That was a really great update. So some really great work going on there. And now team samples. Do we have Bob on the call?
Yeah, we do. Hi, great job there, Paul. So yeah, this will be quick. We don't have any new samples this week, but the good news is that, and there's a ton of samples at aka.ms/m365/samples. And my favorite new sample is the mind mapping demo that Peter Paul is going to show us in just a few minutes. So that's it for me, but looking forward to the demo from Peter Paul.
Same here, Bob. Thank you. Thank you for the updates. And over to Katrina for updates for Power Platform samples.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much, Paul. Today I'm thrilled to share two new amazing samples that we have in our Power Platform sample solution gallery. The first up is Shahir's responsive Canvas template. This is a great example of how responsive design in Canvas applications can make your apps look great on any device. The next one, we have Bob Lamaster's Patch Tuesday. If you're wondering what Patch Tuesday is or how to easily spot this day each month, check it out. This sample uses flows to simplify your development work. Thank you guys for this outstanding work and for sharing this with us. All the samples in our gallery are open and free to use. So take a look, get inspired, and feel free to share your own creations. Back to you, Paul.
Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you. That's super, super cool. So now it's optional picture time. So time to powder your noses and put on your pose faces. So I'm going to hand over to Vesa. I think would it be better if you share the screen, which you've done, which is super cool.
Yep.
So grab a screenshot. I'm going to stay off camera just to let all you lovely people fit in the slide. Yeah.
So we have 50 seats in the room. So let's wait for a while. We're not super pixelated. It's not super clear either, but a few more seats should be good. Bob can't stand still. He's already waving, and Gautam on the back row. So a few more seats. Yeah, good. Hugo on the middle. Yeah, that's a good way of doing that. Oh, and there's waves. Yes. Cool. I will put the recording on and let's do some hand waving, everybody. We'll grab a GIF animation out of this again. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Awesome to have you on call. A lot of familiar faces, also familiar virtual faces. That's really good. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back on the real stars of the day on the demo section. But that's really cool. Thank you for being part of the screenshot.
Awesome. Awesome. Right, let's see what's next. So we have let's in this little corner here. So we have two demos today. So we've got Peter, Paul Kirschner. So Peter, over to you if you want to take over screen sharing and kick it away.
Thank you, Paul. Welcome everybody, and grüß euch from Austria. My name is Peter Paul Kirschner, and I want to show you a team sample and explain what you can find in this sample. Let's ask Megan if she has time to give me some inspirations for the presentation. It's super cool. She has time, and to make a presentation, what this is, let's start with a mind map. So I go to Add to Tab, and add a tab. In this one, I add the Teams mind map local, and then I have a configuration screen. There's pop-up. Let's save it, and here we are. We have a mind map. But currently, I'm alone in this mind map. So what Megan on her screen, she had the information on the chat that a new tab was inserted, and as soon as she clicks on the screen, we have she's also here on the bottom. You can see that now we have two attendees in this mind map. So let's play around. Let's edit the welcome, and we are talking about an app. Save it. And on the other side, I can also add a child node. Let's call it mind map, and save it. And as soon as I save it, the change is automatically replicated to the other side. So Megan can also add another child. Megan, oh, I should speak about the data model. Okay, I can do it. So in the data model, I have two objects. I have nodes and I have connections. At least I need one node per mind map, and the connection is optional. In the code, it looks like that we have an ID. Everything needs an ID. Then I have a text, and then I have the position X and Y, where it is in the mind map. And the connection and the nodes are connected over connections, and I have here a source ID and a target ID. So in the data model, when I look at it, would like this small sample that I have an app, I have a mind map, and they are connected with one connection. So the rendering, when I think about the rendering, I have in my mind there are three options. I can use a canvas, I can use plain HTML or SVG images. In this sample, I said I use SVG images because there's a great library, open source library outside. It's a D3GS library, and with some parts, it's really easy to use and to draw such a mind map. So then we have a part, how does communication works? When I use the mind map directly in Teams, and for me, Megan and I, then we have two separate mind maps. This is not very practical because then Megan draws their own mind map and me is drawing my own mind map. So we have to connect these different instances together. And so I tried it with a Fluid framework. The nice thing is I don't need a server. I go to the Azure environment and say, create a new Fluid relay service, and this was it. So how does it work? When I have a property and I change the property A from 1 to 2, then I have here a change. The Fluid framework will make an operation to the Fluid relay service. So we have an operation there. The operation will be applied at the Fluid service, and the operation will be replicated to the old clients. And my client, who was the trigger, gets the operation also and gets an acknowledge. So, and then we have to apply the change on our state, and yeah, we have it in sync. So, but now our structure looks like this, but I explained such a structure, so I have to flat the object. In the code, it looks like that we have a fluid data model. You find it in the file mindmap fluid model TypeScript. And in the top, you can see I have here the shared map of the distributed data structure what Fluid Frameworks provide me. And on the bottom, there is a code part where a change will be applied. I have no generic flat method used in the sample. I make it by hand, and you see I have a prefix, then I use the node ID and then the value. So with this structure, it is possible that that I change the title and Megan change the position, and so this would work. So this model consumes also the events from the fluid relay. These events are defined in the fluid framework. Each distributed data model has a predefined set of events. Here we have the value changed event and member added or member removed. So, and before I was talking about that we get an acknowledge, and also in the value changed, we get the acknowledge is a Boolean value. This means local. So on the other hand, I have my mind map, the mind map data model. On the top, I get all my nodes and connections, and I bind it directly to the control. So now I have two models, and they look like completely different. And now I have the challenge to make this that these two models work together. In this sample, I use the store. In the store, I store the complete state of the mind map. When we take a deeper look, you can find in the fluid model that I get the value changed, and this emits the model changed event to the store, and this will call the dispatcher. So here it is, the dispatcher, and the model change event is coming. And the reducer applies the change to the store, and so this is the mechanism behind how the store is in sync. And the other way is when the model is changed from the mind map, it also calls a reducer and a dispatcher, the dispatcher and then the reducer to apply the change to the fluid service. In the fluid service, we are talking about a container. Each container is a session. And to get such a session, you have to define a schema, and then you have to attach it. And as soon as you attach it, you get the container ID. And when you want to connect to a container, you need also this ID that the other clients get in the same room. So now the challenge was the first person who adds the tab to a chat, group, channel, or meeting has to tell each other that the same has to tell the container ID to all other people. And then I was thinking about how to solve it. Yeah, I can use a database to store the information, or I can store this container ID in the SharePoint. But when I use it in the SharePoint, I have a chat or a meeting. This I can store in the OneDrive list or the property back of the OneDrive. And when I use a channel, I can store it also in a SharePoint list or the property back. But then the informations are stored in different locations depending on which location I use the tab, or I can write the graph extensions. But I was searching for easier way to store such information, and they want to store it directly in Teams. And when you look at the manifest, you have the options configuration tabs, and on the configuration tab you can say I want to use this pop-up. And the cool thing on this pop-up is you have a save button, and as soon as the save button is hit, you can execute some code. And the registration is really easy. You register your safe handler, and in my thing, I create on the safe handler the container of the Fluid framework, and then I manipulate the content URL and give the container ID as a query string. And to pass the parameter from the query string is an easy job in HTML. And the main important thing is to say teams that we are successfully finished. If you forget it, you're waiting and waiting for a while. So everybody is in the same container, and we can draw a mind map together. But the next thing was the startup dev experience. The problem is for a developer, it's very useful to hit one button and say the complete application starts. We learned it from the graph, from the Teams toolkit. Hit play, the side loading will be done automatically. It's really nice. And in this sample, I need an additional service in the Fluid Relay service. And to start it every time with a command is sometimes boring. So I added in the task JSON an additional task and run the command npm run fluid. It's defined that we can start the Fluid Framework Azure local service. And to add it in the Teams toolkit, we have only to add in the start application an additional depends on, and voila, it's finished. We have now in the task banner or the terminal of Visual Studio Code the front-end task, and I have here the back-end task from the Fluid Relay. So the last word, please try it, give feedback. It's only a sample, it's not a product. You can find a lot of bugs inside. You will find a lot of debug information in the code, and every kind of feedback is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That was super, super cool. I don't know about everybody else, but I am mind blown by this sample. So I've learned a lot from what you've demonstrated here. So thank you very much for sharing this with the community. Right, now we have the wonderful, the magical Chris Kent.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yep, also
good. All right. Well, could someone make me a presenter? That will be helpful. Then I will present. Wow.
But we just love your voice, Chris. We should just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can describe it.
Through it. Yeah,
I mean, then it's whatever I say it is.
Like a book.
It's so amazing, everybody. Oh my gosh. That's all I have time for, though.
Right, there you go. So,
all right, good. Let's
enjoy the power.
The power. All right. And yeah, let's see. There we go. All right, there you see my screen there? Woo. Yes. Good. Yep, all right, that's me. I'm Chris. Woo! We're going to talk about some exciting stuff related to list formatting and all the things that are happening over there. So the first thing I want to do is head over to our classic Warrior Horses site that we all have. Now, the Warrior Horses, like a lot of us, have started to grow a little older, right? And they're realizing that they're set in some of their ways, and they're failing to attract some of the youngins, the youths of the horse community, right? And they want them there because that's the future, and and more bodies on the battlefield and all that, so on and so forth. So, like any good corporate team, they thought, what's the best way to reach the youths? And that's to put cartoons at a corporate SharePoint site, of course. So there we go. So now they have their own site dedicated to the young horses, where all drawings were done by my daughter. Very good job, Eleanor. Woo! All right. So what we're doing here is, in attempting to reach out to the youths, right, we're also trying to make things a little easier for them to use stuff, right? So one of the things SPFX did years ago, right, was introduce a lot of standardized ways of doing things, right, that weren't just specific to Microsoft 365 and that whole ecosystem, right? So you could bring in other developers, maybe React developers or some of your more traditional developers, right, to come in there and do that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, over on list formatting, someone thought, we want to be able to write HTML in these lists. Why don't we do that not with HTML, but with JSON to make HTML? Well, that's a great idea. We'll do it in a very custom, unique way, specifically to Microsoft 365. So kind of the opposite. And that makes it harder for some of us to approach this, right? Even those of us that are working inside, SharePoint online all day, every day, we're playing Microsoft lists and so on. This isn't something you're doing as your primary job. So list formatting is one of those things you do as a small integration piece, right? Or something you tweak to a project and make a huge difference in how people are using stuff. And it's really, really powerful, but there's quite a bit of a learning curve, right? So one of the things we talked about last week was a way to decrease that. So let me jump over to that slide and we'll look at that one more slide again. We'll talk about it again. So this was the JSONify. A couple weeks ago, came out with this, right? So it's a VS Code extension. As of a couple weeks ago, what it did was it took an SVG and made it into a column format and did some fancy stuff with the shapes and so on. Wow. Well, it's been updated as of this morning. So now you can do HTML to column formats directly inside VS Code. It's also going to do some intelligent mapping on that. So it's going to find elements that don't belong. It's going to bring those over, but also some default styling with those to try and make them closer to what they should be, since we've really only got about 6 element types they can be, right, out of a few hundred or however many it is. So that's what's going on there. And then also we've added live updates. Woo-hoo! So let's take a look at that. And just so we don't have to come back to the slides, I also want to mention another tool I'm going to show one more time here, which is SP Formatter, which is awesome, right? So Sergey Sergeevich put this together for us, part of the PNP team. This is a Chrome or a Microsoft Edge extension, but it also has a VS Code extension, which is the part that I'm going to be showing off today because that works really, really well with JSONify live formats. Woo! Let's take a look. All right, let's head on back. All right, so we got this site. Again, I'm a young horse. I don't really care about all these things. I don't want to learn all this stuff. But they're trying to appeal to me, so they think, what are the kids like today? They like recipes, of course, right? So look, we've got a recipe tracker list here. The kids can't get enough of these recipes, so put their recipes in there. They can track them inside SharePoint like everyone wants to do. Let's just add a couple of quick items here. It doesn't really matter what, I don't know, a sausage, apples sounds exciting. Horse meat, why not? Fruit and Tears of the Fallen, perfect. Okay. What? I want Tears of the Fallen. That was a great suggestion. All right, perfect. I apparently have typed that before. What that says about me. Okay, perfect. All right, we got Tears of the Fallen. So here we go. Now we've got an exciting list, and we're just using this. We don't really care a whole lot because our focus is not necessarily on how to do formats. It's how to do formatting. Ooh, what does that mean? Let's find out. So let's head on back here and go over to our VS Code where all this stuff happens. So just to review, right, this is kind of what we had before. We had this SVG here, right? So this is an SVG with several unsupported element types, right? None of these right here are supported. In list formatting, right, we only get paths, and then text doesn't easily come over. But now we can say over here, and we can go convert to SP list format. Right now we got our format over here, and that's exciting. You'll see that it's made a path for all of these items, except for the text, which you cannot bring over, just because text doesn't map easily. But now this is where we see our live updates. So you can start to see, like when I update the color here. Ooh, updates there and live, so we can see those things start to appear wherever we need to, and that makes troubleshooting this stuff a lot easier. And again, we kind of looked at the SVG stuff before. Let's take a look at some HTML stuff. Nah, I don't care. All right, so let's go over here. So with HTML, right, we could just write our own. Let's get rid of it. We don't need no bomb anymore. Bye, bomb. All right, so let's add some HTML, right? We could add a little snippet or something, right? So if we wanted to get all fancy with an HTML document, we could, and we come in here and we could say, div. Let's see, surely it's going to autocomplete something for me. Let's see, we add an H1 tag, right? We'll call this, we'll say, of course, wowee, because everyone needs to say wowee all the time. Very important. All right, and then maybe we add a div and it's got a span, that says horse. That sounds great. Right, the idea is you're writing HTML here, and then you convert that to the format. And so now we have a format. And one of the things it's doing, you might notice is a little strange, is we've got a couple of styles that are showing up here that maybe don't always show up over here, right? And the reason for that is because H1 elements don't exist. They're not a supported element type, right? So really the closest thing we have is a div, but we can go ahead and apply some base styles on that to kind of respect that original designation as an H1, right? So this matches the default styling of the browser. So, you go with that. We've got that for all of them. So for all of the elements and everything that we are mapping over to either divs or spans, that's pretty much how that goes. If it's not one of the chosen elements, that's what it becomes, is a div or a span, sometimes with some extra styling associated with it, again, to make that all work magically. Okay, so now if we take a look at this, let's take a look at something just slightly even more magic, right, as we're messing with this. And let's see, let's move this guy like that into that guy, and then let's grab our horses. Where's our blood stallions? All right, let's move you down to that one. Okay, perfect. Okay, so then we can kind of see it, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to format this thing. So I'm going to format this column, and I mentioned that extension. I'm trying to fit all this on the screen, so I apologize for being a little tinny. All right, and I'm going to just turn that on. All right, so once I've enabled that, you should see that show up down here once I pick advanced mode. I can see the advanced formatter. All right, it looks like it's already connected, but just to make sure, I'm going to start a new session. There we go. So when I start that session here, right now you can see the HTML I wrote over here is becoming a format over here that's getting applied over here with SV Formatter and it's getting automatically previewed over here. So very fancy, right? So now I can do things like just edit my HTML directly, right? And I'm seeing it show up right in SharePoint, which is very, very exciting, right? So I, as a young horse that doesn't care about XSL or JS Link or all the history of the battles we fought coming through all our SharePoint wars over time, right? I know HTML, I know CSS, and someone asked me to make a date red. Well, I could do that, right? I could type in some date stuff here and I can make a red, and then you can do some tweaking here to make that a little better, right? So that's cool. We don't need all of this extra junk. That's just if you want it, right? You can have all that, but none of that's required, so we can make that look a little better. And now one of the real powerful things here is the fact that we're editing this here. Right here, we can get nice things like, horse is, are great, and then we'll say something like, emphasis, don't you think? So we just write these things in line, right? And then we could say, a strong, and we're just mixing things in here. And we can say a style, right, is color, I don't know, red. Sounds good. Oh, we're not actually on that section, so let's see. So now what we're seeing the power is, I'm able to just write this almost as a sentence. I can read it almost as a sentence. Because when you actually look at that inside a format, when you start to break things up across like this, and this is not not an uncommon scenario to be bolding or emphasizing things, putting color on certain parts of text, that gets really, really hard to read inside a format or to edit that. And it gets hard to do that in a way that's, in any way fast, right? Trying to move this and then drag these elements around is difficult. So write it in HTML, right? And get those auto completions and wow. That's exciting. Now, why don't we, now I'm still having to write this stuff. What's that all about? That's crazy, right? Well, you'll notice I've also pinned Copilot over here, right? So we can do some exciting Copilot stuff. So, I mean, no demo would be complete today without some kind of AI, right? Of course. So let's ask it first. Let's try and skip everything and say, generate a, Microsoft SharePoint column format, right? That has a hot pink box with rounded corners. We're going to challenge it right now. A classy drop shadow, right? And a thick purple border. And we'll say inside the box is a header that says, "Nay, Queen." All right, great joke. All right, and has the classes MS font color white and MS font color theme primary -- hover, classy. All right, and then why don't you slap some smaller text on there that says equals at current field, plus single quote, exclamation point, single quote, double quotes, right? We're going to add that on there with a class of MS font color neutral primary, right? And then just for the heck of it, why not? We're going to position some pretty yellow SVG flowers, stars, or something over the top. Let's see how it does with that, right? So the idea is we're just going to see how good is Copilot at list formatting, right? Now, if it goes like it has before, I can tell you it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? So let's find out. First, it's going to tell us all the things it's going to tell us before it actually gets to actually telling us about it. So here we go. Here's a format starting to come out with everything we asked for here. Ooh. All right, and then I'm just going to copy that thing. Where's my copy button? Right up here. And because this thing's still live, I can just paste it in here, right? So I paste it in here. You'll notice it does not work, right? And we're like, what? It looks like a good format. And if you start to investigate, you start to notice a couple things. One, Copilot thinks H1 tags are acceptable, right? It'll actually say things in here, like it's got a source for our image as an SVG. That's not going to work, right? It doesn't understand that we can just do an SVG. It's got some other weird stuff. I've actually seen it. Each time I've done this has been different, right? Sometimes it does the SPFX style classes, right, where it actually tries to put in those theme tokens and so on. So it's got some issues, right? But you know what it does do well? So it's not great at list formatting, but it's pretty good at HTML. So let's go grab that whole thing we just wrote, all right? Let's grab that again. Let's paste it this time and say, instead of generating the format, let's say generate, some HTML. There we go. So we'll try that and we'll see if it does any better with that. We'll let it think for a moment. So here's some HTML code that should do those exact things that we're asking for, right? Well, we hope. always good to do it live. Let's see. So there we go. We've got ourselves a nice thing. It's drawn a polygon. That would be normally a problem for us, but we know that it's going to override. So we paste that in there. Boom. I don't know what it's doing with that as a star. We might take a look at that at some point. It's got some kind of big view box. But the idea here is not only did it slap it in there, right? It's automatically got the, because we did that at current field equals, with the double exclamation points, it's automatically taken care of some of those things. It's got our classes in there as we requested, and it works. It also understands certain things like it specified it wanted an H1 tag because Copilot's saying, hey, you asked for a big piece of text. I know the semantic way to express that is a header 1 tag, right? But we don't have that. So we know over here, we've gone ahead and, bumped up the size and made it bold because we know it was an H1 tag and so on. And so that's the exciting magic of JSONify. I'm trying to think what else we need to show you here. I guess that's probably enough. Yeah, that's. I guess we're going to be a little early unless people got questions about any of this, but it is free and it is available to you and it is in beta. So if you find any issues, please ping me, reach out. Working actively on going a little further with some of the styles. We're already doing inline styles or doing styles that are attributes are all being mapped correctly. But right now, if you've got style tags or like a linked CSS, none of those are being brought over just yet. But hopefully soon. We'll see. All right, that's it for me, Paul.
That is amazing, Chris. I am now seriously injured from the jaw dropping and hitting the desk. That is so cool and amazing. Sorry, I'm still trying to recover, but let me bring up the slides and wrap up. Okay. On PowerPoint. Right. So after those two amazing demos, if you want to continue the conversation, how about you check out our Discord server, where the community is growing quite rapidly in that space. If you've got any questions around any of the initiatives, or you just want to hang out and ask some questions, you're stuck on something, so feel free to reach out to this channel. There's a QR code on the screen there, and another lovely AKMS address where we've got AKMS/community/Discord. So, and head over to that and we can continue the conversation, which is super cool. And And yes, and feedback's absolutely important to us. So we want to know how we do in these calls, how you rate them. Is there anything we can do to improve? We want to collect your feedback so that we can then feed that in and make things cooler for you for the next round. Yeah. So we all learn from each other in these calls, and we make it even better. So please absolutely reach out on community/calls/feedback for anything you'd like to see or improve for the future. And sadly, that is the end of the call. So thank you very much. You've been awesome. There's been some great presenters from Peter and Chris. And the recording will be available in 24 hours. So the recording won't appear in the chat. Will appear in the chat, but it won't work. So if you please wait for 24 hours, they'll be posted to our YouTube channel, and then you can go and check that out again if you want to check out those videos as well. So also you can follow us in X, known as Twitter previously, for any updates at the M365PMP @handle, and we've got a community page on LinkedIn as well. So just as a reminder, we've got another community call, bi-weekly call coming up on the 29th of February at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And we've also got Viva Connections, SharePoint Framework calls on the 22nd at 7 a.m. Pacific time as well. So you've been super cool. We've had some amazing presenters, and it's been great hosting for you. So I thank you everybody for your contributions, your help, your fun. The chat's been amazing as well. So thank you everybody.